Hello guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. True God in Another World, Tensura x Tbate, by Tempest_King_20. Chapter 20. What family is for Rimuru Pav? As I stepped out of Alduin's office, I made a mental note to keep a close eye on Alduin's progress in breaking the racial barrier. The task ahead was daunting, but I had faith in Alduin and the other. They had accepted my idea wholeheartedly, assuring me that they would do everything in their power to bridge the gap between elves, humans, and dwarves. It was a monumental challenge, but I firmly believed in their abilities and the collective effort that would be put forth. As I made my way through the bustling halls, my thoughts expanded beyond our immediate surroundings. The issue of racism weighed heavily on my mind, not just within our own realm, but across the entire Earth. The lack of progress toward a more inclusive and accepting society frustrated me to no end. It seemed like an uphill battle, but I reminded myself that change always starts small. It begins with individuals willing to stand up for what is right and work tirelessly toward a better future. Alduin, Gramps, and the others were precisely those individuals. Less than just seeing people like them gives me hope that we can truly eradicate racism, greater than Sylvia remarked warmly as I walked towards my room. Indeed, but what bothered me the most was the existence of slaves in this world. Less than I said, annoyed and a little angry. The idea of enslaving people was one of the things I hated the most, so I completely erased it from the Cardinal's world. Sylvia listened attentively, her expression reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. Less than so, in your previous world, slavery no longer exists? Greater than? I sighed, recalling the changes I had brought about in my previous world. Greater than. While slavery did exist in the past, my world underwent a significant transformation. As we became the most powerful nation, I enacted laws that strictly prohibited slavery. Both the merchants involved in the trade and the buyers faced severe penalties. We were determined to set an example, and being the leading kingdom, our influence was substantial. My friends, who held positions of power, lent their support as well. Together, we became the driving force for change. Less than. The memory of my fellow demon lords' united stance against slavery filled me with a sense of pride. Luminous, in particular, had issued a proclamation under the name of God Luminous, effectively banning all forms of slavery. This declaration bolstered our efforts and facilitated the abolition of slavery throughout our realm. Of course, there were always those foolish enough to defy the law, but we dealt with them swiftly and decisively, with the combined might of Sue, Ultima, and Carrera. It still surprises me what you did. It's not something anyone can do. Would you do the same thing in this world? Greater than. Sylvia said, and understood what she meant right away. I nodded firmly. Greater than. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't hesitate. Less than. The journey of changing the unfair laws and customs of this world will be a challenge that will most likely take a long time. Unlike the Cardinal world, my name is unknown yet, and I don't plan to make it known yet. I intend to remain anonymous for the time being and avoid drawing attention from Agrona or Kezes. Should their intentions impede my path, I knew that I possessed the means to resist them, but at a great cost. Removing the seal that bound my true potential would render my purpose moot, a fate I vehemently sought to avoid, especially in the nascent stages of my quest. My fervent aspirations revolved around effecting change, not through domination, but by illuminating a path towards justice and equality, transcending the boundaries of continents and perhaps even the world itself. Yet, in the face of potential failure, if Agrona and Kezes persisted in their tyrannical ways, I grappled with the notion of assuming a position of ultimate authority. Reluctantly, I acknowledged that I would undertake whatever necessary measures to safeguard the well-being of my loved ones and all those seeking solace in the embrace of peace and harmony, even if it entailed the cataclysmic act of dismantling the world to forge a new beginning. Is everything all right, Rimuru? Greater than. Sylvia asked me, noticing the grim expression on my face. Her words pierced through my ruminations, momentarily grounding me in the present. Summoning a smile to allay her worries, I replied, exhaling deeply. Greater than. It's all right, just pondering over the future. Less than. Okay, but just don't wallow in thinking about the future, okay? Greater than. She pleaded, her voice laced with genuine concern. Greater than. Don't worry, I promise I won't. Less than. I reassured her earnestly, my smile broadening. Feeling her silent affirmation, I pressed forward, resolute in my stride, my mind aflame with determination to reshape the world. I continued my stride, marveling at the resplendent palace of the elves. Although it paled in comparison to the grandeur of my palace, it exuded a certain charm and allure unique to its kind. Enveloped by a sense of awe, I ventured through the palace's opulent chambers, my eyes tracing the intricate tapestries cascading from the walls, each thread forming a masterpiece in its own right. The doors, adorned with intricately carved designs, stood as testaments to the elves' exquisite craftsmanship. The air was thick with the intoxicating fragrance of incense, lending an ethereal quality to the atmosphere that engulfed my senses. As I walked, the wooden floors reciprocated with a gentle cushioning effect, indulging my every step, while the meticulously etched latticework patterns on the walls captivated my attention, their mesmerizing intricacy an ode to the elves' artistic prowess. As I approached the room, I couldn't help but overhear Tess and Arthur chit-chatting away. The moment Tess laid eyes on me, she practically sprinted over and gave me a tightest hug. "Rimuru, you're finally back," she squealed happily. I couldn't help but return her infectious enthusiasm with a contented sigh and a wide grin. "Yeah, I'm back, but I guess my dear brother ain't as thrilled about it as you are," I sneered, giving Arthur a scornful look. He strolled over all casual-like, hands jiggling in his shorts pockets. I threw him some shade and smirked. "Maybe you're bummed 'cause you won't get to spend alone time with Tess?" That got both Tess and Art blushing and gushing, though to different degrees. "Nah, man, it ain't like that," Arthur protested, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. Anyway, enough about that. How are things back home?" Arthur tried to change the subject. "They're doing great. Our old man is now working as a bouncer at his friend's auction house, and they're living together with his friend's family," I replied. Arthur nodded, pleased to hear our folks were doing well. "Oh, and we got a little sis now," I added with a smile. Arthur's face lit up too. "What's her name? What does she look like?" Arthur inquired eagerly, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Her name is Eleanor, but we call her Ellie for short," I answered, a fondness evident in my voice. Memories of holding her for the first time flooded my mind, as I share the details with Arthur. "She's the complete opposite of you, with Dad's gray locks and Mom's brown eyes," I gushed, the image of Ellie's delicate features etched vividly in my mind. When I laid eyes on her for the first time, my heart swelled with indescribable emotions. A mixture of joy and a profound sense of responsibility washed over me like a gentle wave. It was an entirely new level of love that I had never experienced before, and I felt immensely grateful for Ellie and the immense joy she brought into my life. Tess couldn't contain her excitement either, chiming in with her own anticipation. "I can't wait to meet her," she exclaimed, her eyes brimming with genuine enthusiasm. "Unfortunately, you'll have to wait a few years, but how about we talk about what you were doing without me?" I said with a mischievous smile, hoping to playfully rile up Tess. However, it seemed that my sarcasm went right over her head as she started eagerly sharing every detail of their adventures. Their relationship hadn't undergone any significant changes or progress in the past month. Perhaps it was due to Tess's youthful and carefree nature, which made Art view her more as a friend to protect and a sisterly figure, rather than a potential romantic interest. It was evident that he had a soft spot for her, but not in a romantic sense. Though I must admit, Tess's childlike behavior did annoy me initially. Yet, as time passed, I grew accustomed to it. After all, I had spent countless centuries with three individuals who possessed a similar childlike quality, despite each having lived for over 1,000 years. It was clear to me that unless Tess learned to exhibit a greater sense of maturity, Art would never perceive her as a romantic partner. With that in mind, I took it upon myself to subtly guide Tess towards a more grown-up demeanor. Of course, my intention was solely for Art's benefit. I wanted him to experience the joys of romantic love, whether it was with Tess or someone else. After all, as the elder sibling, it was my responsibility to take care of my younger brother. "Less than. You just want to tease Art," Sylvia murmured under her breath. Greater than, did you say something, Sylvia?" Less than, I feigned innocence, choosing to ignore her words. Sylvia let out a soft sigh and replied, her voice tinged with resignation, "Less than no, I didn't say anything." Greater than she realized that she couldn't dissuade me from my mischievous intentions, accepting that I was determined to see this through. "Shall we commence our practice?" I inquired. stretching my limbs in the vast expanse of the backyard. As always, Gramps was present, assisting Art with the assimilation process, while Tess observed with keen attention. Having completed my daily exercises and engaged in a duel with Gramps, the stage was set for our training session. However, today brought a noticeable deviation from the usual routine. Aya and Aaliyah had joined us, expressing their fervent desire to contribute to my training. The prospect of learning the Mirage Walk had ignited a spark of excitement within them, particularly Aya. Their presence injected an air of anticipation into the atmosphere, elevating the energy of the training session. Aaliyah queried, her voice tinged with curiosity, "What course of action shall we undertake?" The group of us stood at a modest distance from Gramps, Art, and Tess. "I will proceed with my usual exercises, while you attempt to absorb mana while in motion," I explained, and I saw perplexed expressions on their faces. The notion seemed implausible, but I assured them it was achievable, drawing from personal experience. My brother and I employ a technique called mana rotation that enables us to replenish our mana even during combat. Their astonishment was palpable, their gazes flitting from me to one another before nodding in unison. Aware that this would require time and patience, I provided them with a fundamental overview of the technique before they embarked on their individual practice. Aaliyah and Aya encountered initial struggles, but under my guidance, they gradually made headway, capitalizing on their adeptness in controlling mana at the white stage, a skill that bestowed them with an advantage over Jasmine, who was currently at the orange stage. Resisting the urge to intervene excessively, I chose instead to observe whether they could grasp the technique unaided. Nonetheless, I remained ready to extend my assistance should they encounter formidable obstacles. Having concluded my instructions, I noticed Gramps approaching me with a perplexed expression etched upon his face. His brow furrowed, and his eyes narrowed as he studied the scene before him. Art and Tess were following closely behind, their curiosity piqued by the unusual sight. "What precisely are they attempting to accomplish?" Gramps queried, his voice laced with curiosity and mild bewilderment. He gestured towards Aya and Aaliyah, whose bodies were in constant motion. "They are trying to absorb mana while in motion," I replied, my tone matter of fact. I watched the struggling duo with a keen eye, noting their determination despite the challenges they faced. "But I thought that this technique can only be learned when your heart is in its early stages and the body is developing," Arthur interjected, raising an inquisitive eyebrow. His voice held a hint of skepticism, mingled with genuine interest. "I have discovered that it can be learned," I asserted, casting a glance at the struggling duo. "I even taught Jasmine, and she managed to succeed." "Really?" Art's voice held a mixture of surprise and admiration as he sought confirmation. I simply nodded, affirming the truth of my statement. Gramps, however, wore a perplexed expression, his confusion unabated. Wait, what is happening here? Absorbing mana while in motion? This is an entirely novel concept to me, and you speak as if you possess this ability yourself." His eyes darted between Art and me, seeking clarification. Realizing his need for a demonstration, I exchanged a knowing look with Art, silently communicating my intentions. Art, understanding my cue, began to exhibit the mana rotation, moving with a fluidity and grace that belied his mastery of the skill. Gramps stood frozen, his mouth agape, utterly astounded by Art's visible mastery of the technique. "Brat, how were you able to achieve this?" Gramps stammered, his voice still laced with astonishment. "Absorbing mana while in motion is unheard of, and yet here you are executing it effortlessly. Explain the workings of this phenomenon." "I refer to this technique as mana rotation." Arthur spoke with a smile, his eyes fixed on me. "It is an instinctual skill possessed by mana beasts from birth. It is believed that this technique can only be learned when your core is in its early stages and your body is developing. Since humans, elves, and dwarves awaken much later when their bodies are mostly developed, they can't learn this technique, or so I was told. However, it seems my brother had something else to say." Art's words hold truth, though I initially held doubts. Perhaps children find it easier due to their heightened capacity for knowledge absorption, but that does not necessarily preclude adults from mastering it. That was my belief, so I conducted an experiment with a former member of our father's adventuring party. After numerous attempts, I discovered that it is indeed possible with external assistance. Gramps, his curiosity piqued, inquired further, "And what form does this external aid take? Moreover, why do you make them do it without this help?" "As for your first question, I would prefer to keep that knowledge guarded for now, I responded cautiously, recognizing the need for discretion. Gramps nodded understandingly, acknowledging the underlying reasons. Regarding the second question, I surmised that since they find themselves in the white stage, their heightened mana control might enable them to accomplish the feat unassisted. Gramps muttered as he stroked his beard thoughtfully, his mind engrossed in contemplation. So, could you? His sentence trailed off, prompting me to finish his thought. Teach you? I interjected, interpreting Gramps' unspoken request. Gramps responded with an eager smile, his eyes lighting up with anticipation. Certainly, if it aids you even slightly in surpassing me, I remarked sarcastically, the corners of my lips curling into a mischievous smile. Art and Tess let out a chuckle, their amusement at Gramps' expense evident. Gramps playfully grumbled, let us not forget, you have yet to defeat me as well, brat. A vein popped up on my forehead as I retorted, but at least I'm not the one being pushed around by a brat. I emphasized the word, brat, with a mischievous smile, meeting Gramps' gaze. So much so that I use the beast wool against a brat. I think we need an interval struggle, then, Gramps said sarcastically, his smile still evident on his face. Okay, but you should know I'm a little angry that you disclosed my secret, so I can't go easy on you, and you might end up kissing the floor, I said with a hint of defiance, my eyes narrowing slightly. Okay, kids, step back, Gramps said, as he waved Art and Tess away. I need to teach this brat here a lesson. I chuckled at Gramps' playful banter and nodded in agreement. Bring it on, old man. Let's see if you still have what it takes to keep up with me, I challenged him, a smirk playing on my lips. But just remember, no holding back this time. Sure, if that's what you want, he replied with a smirk as he extended his hand. His eyes sparkled with a mix of competitiveness and anticipation. Let's see what you've got, brat. In the end, there wasn't enough time to teach Gramps the mana rotation technique. Our training sessions turned into constant battles, and damn, that old man took it way too seriously. It felt like he was out to kill me. Less than if everything hadn't come out, you would have definitely defeated him, greater than Sylvia said. Greater than you think so? Less than I responded, my tone skeptical. Less than absolutely. Your techniques have improved significantly, greater than. Greater than still, I won't easily forgive Gramps for his conduct. Next time, my patience will wear thin. Less than I grumbled, my dissatisfaction evident. Sylvia's voice held empathy as she probed further. Less than, are you still harboring anger towards him? Greater than? Greater than of course, less than I replied, the frustration seeping through my words. Greater than imagine if the director hadn't revealed his treacherous nature, jeopardizing Alacria. We would have found ourselves in grave peril. Less than. Less than him, yes, greater than Sylvia concurred, her tone tinged with agreement. Less than that revelation could have unraveled most, if not all, of your crafted plans, greater than. Although Gramps had acted with good intentions, I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment that he hadn't discussed his plan with me beforehand. Trusting the director without considering my perspective had put everything at risk. If the director had turned out to be loyal to Alacria, I would have been forced to eliminate her, which would have caused utter chaos, considering she was the headmistress of the most prestigious academy on the entire continent. Thankfully, disaster was averted, allowing me to set aside my grievances with Gramps, at least for now. However, I made a mental note to caution him about making unilateral decisions in the future without informing me first. For now, my primary concern was to avoid drawing any unwanted attention that might prompt Agrona to alter his plans and come after my brother and me. Thus, I dedicated myself to meticulously strengthening the continent's overall power from the shadows. Aya, Aaliyah, and Jasmine displayed remarkable potential, with their abilities showing subtle improvements. Jasmine, in particular, had been diligently honing her skills for the past 8 months. In addition to their magical aptitude, I planned to impart upon them the Mirage Walk. Furthermore, there were others like Kyla, and their companions who were undergoing arduous training. From what I could discern, they possessed the potential to become formidable forces in due time. While I did not anticipate them reaching the level of being able to harm an Asura or slay a scythe, I held hope that they would surpass the current capabilities of Aya and Aaliyah. Of course, my focus also extended to my brother, Arthur. In my heart, I firmly believed that even without my reincarnation in this world, Arthur would have emerged as Decathan's savior. The way his mana and ether flowed around him provided a glimpse of his immense potential. He possessed the qualities that could make him one of the strongest individuals not just on this continent, but possibly in the entire world. However, for the time being, his progress was somewhat hindered by his preoccupation with the beast's will. To expedite his assimilation process, not only for his personal growth but also to hasten his reunion with our parents, I decided to lend him a helping hand. I approached his room and gently rapped on the door. After a momentary pause, Arthur opened it, his countenance reflecting a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Is something amiss?" he inquired, ushering me inside. "No, I was contemplating spending some time alone while also assisting you with your assimilation," I replied, making my way to his bed. "You know, Gramps does help you, but it might take several years, perhaps even longer." Arthur nodded understandingly and settled himself on the bed in a meditative posture, preparing to begin the assimilation process. I positioned myself behind him, placing my hand gently on his back. A surge of mana coursed through me, which I channeled into him, aiding him in channel his mana. "So how were they?" Arthur broke the heavy silence between us with a soft voice, his eyes filled with curiosity. I took a deep breath, understanding that my response would be difficult for him to hear. "At first, they were completely devastated," I began, my voice heavy with the weight of the memories. "Our mother, overwhelmed by grief and despair, even attempted to take her own life." The horror in Arthur's eyes was palpable, and I could sense his heart skip a beat. "But," I continued, a tinge of relief seeping into my tone, "they found the strength to carry on, for the sake of our little sister." A faint smile touched my lips as I spoke those words. Arthur exhaled audibly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "You said they were living with our father's friend, right?" he asked, and I nodded. "How are they?" "Vincent and Tabitha Helstia. They are the owners of a well-known auction house in Xyrus. Our father saved Vincent in the past, and since then they have become friends." As Arthur leaned forward, his gaze unwavering, I continued to provide a detailed account of their present circumstances. "When our parents arrived in Xyrus, they decided to settle there. Our father approached Vincent, offering his services as a guard for the auction house. Vincent graciously accepted, and that's how our father became the leader of the guards," I explained. "Our mother, on the other hand, found solace and support in Tabitha and her daughter, Lilia. They became her pillars of strength, providing both practical and emotional assistance." A mixture of relief and gratitude washed over Arthur's face as he absorbed the information. "They truly sound like remarkable people," he murmured, his voice tinged with sincerity. "I can't express enough how grateful I am that they were there for our parents in their time of need. I feel compelled to show them my appreciation." I offered him a warm smile, a flicker of mischief in my eyes. "You needn't worry because I have already presented them with a token of gratitude." Arthur's brow furrowed, confusion etching his features. "You mean the clothes and gifts you bought for them? While it's a kind gesture, it hardly seems enough to repay the debt we owe them," he pointed out, his concern evident. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. "No, not that," I said, a sense of anticipation building within me. "I did something that would truly bring them joy, although they remain unaware of it." Arthur's eyes widened, his curiosity piqued. His silence urged me to continue. "I facilitated something they had longed for, a dream they believed would never come true," I revealed, a touch of excitement lacing my voice. "You see, they had always hoped that their daughter would awaken as a mage, but the odds seemed stacked against them." Arthur's disbelief was written all over his face, his voice barely audible. "Wait, let me get this straight. You actually helped their daughter awaken as a mage?" His astonishment hung in the air, mingling with a mix of wonder and incredulity. A subtle smile appeared at the corners of my mouth as I nodded in affirmation. "Yes, indeed. I injected her with the essence of the four elements, allowing her to perceive and manipulate mana. I guided her, teaching her how to harness the diffused mana in her body and channel it into the core." The excitement in my voice was evident, reflecting the satisfaction I derived from the successful outcome. Arthur remained silent, seemingly grappling with the implications of my actions. After a moment, he found his voice again, his eyebrow raised inquisitively. "But why didn't you do the same for Tess? Surely, the thought must have crossed your mind." I let out a sigh, sensing Arthur's disappointment. Honestly, I didn't have the opportunity to consider that possibility, I admitted. But may I ask why you're bringing this up? Did you want me to extend my assistance to your loved one as well? Arthur's response was swift and resolute. No, it's not like that, Rimuru, he clarified, emphasizing his words to convey his sincerity. I see Tess as nothing more than a close friend. I understand, I nodded in acknowledgement. However, should she ever confess her feelings to you, and if you don't reciprocate those emotions, I advise you not to lead her on. Pretending to love someone when you don't is the cruelest form of betrayal. I see. I won't pretend to love her, Arthur said, looking down and whispering softly. It's not like I deserve to be loved. His voice was barely audible, but I heard him nonetheless. In response, I tapped him on the head. Ouch, why did you do that? Arthur rubbed the sore spot, his voice filled with a mix of confusion and pain. That hurt, you know. I looked at him with disappointment, my voice stern. Arthur, don't ever think like that again, I said firmly. You shouldn't believe that you don't deserve love. Everyone deserves to be loved, regardless of their past mistakes or shortcomings. Arthur seemed about to protest, but I interrupted him, letting out a sigh. I know it's not easy to let go of the past, but it's something we all have to do, I said, adopting a gentler tone. And even though you may feel unworthy of love, I disagree. You've experienced hardships from a young age, and there wasn't an adult to guide you on the right path. You endured challenges that would have made even an adult falter, and yet you were just a child. Remember that you're no longer defined by your past as gray. It's a part of your history, but it doesn't dictate your present or your future, I continued, noticing tears welling up in Arthur's eyes. Ignoring them, I continued to pat him on the head. No matter what others may think of you, no matter who turns away, and no matter what mistakes you've made, I'll always be by your side. I'll protect you, love you, and never give up on you, little brother, I whispered gently. Thank you, really thank you, big brother, Arthur choked out, tears streaming down his face. Of course, little brother, I replied, a sense of relief washing over me. That's what family is for.